So although I've worked in the commissioner and on the provider side, today I'm going to talk to you about very personal experience as chair from Richmond Borough Mind. So specifically our example is around mental health. So our partnership started with the providers on the mental health side, led by the CCG. So this is what our organisation looks like, just to give you a flavour of a comparison in terms of your organisations. In the early days, we knew that we wanted to be involved, we knew that this was important and that we could contribute. But it was really informal discussions and discussions with commissioners, much like today in the previous one you've had. And then we were conscious that we needed the board to be behind this and understand how important it was. And that took a lot of work. We had an away day back in January 2016 where that's all we discussed. And at that time, we didn't know what the forum would be. We knew that we would be measured by outcomes, and really it was an exploratory day, but it was an important day. It was the start of us beginning to understand as a board and an organisation how we could get involved. And then at the same time, we had an away day for the staff, and it's a very difficult concept because it can seem quite abstract, and so we decided to focus on pathways. And the frontline staff, I mean, they're the experts on how to deliver services, and they're the experts on where the difficulties are, for example, the interface between organisations or between children and adult care. So that not only helped the staff feel involved and able to contribute, but it also helped us when we started meeting with the commissioners and the most capable provider group. So our partnership is made up of RB Mind, which is ourselves, South West London and St George's, Change, Grow, Live, and Richmond Borough, East London Foundation Trust. Actually, you can read, so I don't need to, to go through them. I beg your pardon. And that has changed over a period of time. Initially, it was just 5 of us, and now there's 7, 8. Stage 1 was really developing our relationships and meeting with the commissioners and looking at ideas and exploring what would and wouldn't work, and what we thought we could aim to achieve and what we thought was really not possible. So, I mean, there was agreement that RB Mind would represent the voluntary sector, because we'd done a lot of work in the previous year just bringing people together. So I think it's important to figure out who you want to represent you around the table, because there's so many voluntary sector groups. You have much larger organisations, more organisations than we do. The other thing that we felt was really important was to be involved in the clinical pathway group, because although, as David was saying, we want it all to be clinically led, there is a great deal that we can contribute even if we're not clinicians. We were then asked to apply formally for being a most capable provider, all except the council and the GPs, because they were more or less a fixed point. We realised we needed a housing provider. We weren't really looking at it as a whole without having the whole housing provider. And then we wanted to be on the panel for when they employed a project manager. We didn't have any extra funds like you have, we're really lucky. We didn't have any additional money, but we did have the money from the CCG to employ a project manager, which really was working for the providers and was our communication to the commissioners. Stage 2, once we had been agreed by the CCG that who would be the capable providers, we had to process and submit a considered response to the invitation to submit details. So basically, what we're going to deliver, what are the changes we're going to make, how we're going to do it, what our governance would look like, and the finances. At this point, everything was happening so fast. I think ensuring that our staff understood what we were doing and that the board was behind it was really important. Otherwise, we would have got into problems, because each and everything that was coming forward, we had to take it to our board, we had to put it through our governance. So that was an important investment we made. So during this process, the most capable providers group agreed to work together with a Memorandum of Understanding, which was brought us together, but there was very few legal implications of that, but it allowed us to start working together in a more formal manner. We considered how the MCP group would transform existing services to achieve an integrated care model of care and outcomes framework. And remember that long before this, we'd already been having the discussions, we'd already formed relationships and built trust within the group. So it was our intention to develop a 2-year transformation plan to 2017 and 2018. So going back to David's presentation, we were agreeing to do things, but we knew that they would change. These were the ideas we had. We needed to set something down, and that was the hardest part really, but we've begun to do that by now. We were somewhat exhausted by this point. It had been a long journey, but after a couple of cups of coffee, we were back in there. So I did a little audit just to see, and I don't want to scare you, but I simply want you to realise that whoever takes on the representation, there is a great deal of work involved. And so from January to March, 110 staff and trustee hours in meetings, 15 hours reading emails and preparation. And these are very senior trustees with legal, commercial and NHS experience. Another thing I don't have on the slide, but I might mention is before we'd launched into all of this, we realised that we needed more skills on our board. So there are a number of board members that were retiring, so we went out and looked for somebody that had a legal background, another person with financial background, somebody with corporate background, and this really helped us through this whole transition. So the new contract for us would be around 29 million. So the real carrot was for us that it would be a longer contract, and the main shift of service planning and delivery away from the usual kind of traditional provider activity-based model to one that is focused on based on the patient's needs, and all throughout this process, each organisation has been working with their service users and carers, looking at what those outcomes should be alongside the mandatory ones that we're going to have to do. So I kind of think David has said all this. The important bit really here, the carrot for all of us, is that the contract would be looking as if it would be for 5 to 10 years. So these are really busy slides, but they're just if you're taking away some of the timelines and what we did, and they all lagged and they changed, but that's what we started with. And some of the work streams which were really important, and actually when we worked through the work streams, we built up better relationships with the other providers because we worked on them together. There was so much that it was very difficult, but we worked closely with all the other organisations. And during this process, we kind of realised what expertise people had, and I think I was saying to David earlier that often the statutory sector think that the voluntary sector has got a great deal to contribute, but they're not quite sure where to stick us. So we actually demonstrated that actually we do have a lot of knowledge. We're on the ground. We know what's going on, and actually, I mean, if we were all doing the yoga class, we would be the most flexible. So the puzzle was beginning to fit together by this point, and remembering that this journey started way back. And this is. So we were putting things on paper. It may not be exactly how it turns out, but we realised that we had to put something on paper. And for all of us, the prevention was the biggest thing. And then recovery, I mean, certainly within our partnership, crisis care, I mean, nothing unusual, all the things that were in every area that we're concerned about. So there was so much we wanted to do, so what do we want to do first? We want to redesign and look at acute and crisis care and how we can improve it. And then we spent quite some time on how we would train ourselves and inter-organisational training, how we would do that, what it would mean, who would lead on it, and where the money's going to come from for that, because we have no additional money. The contracts will be much the same as they are currently. This is our governance arrangements, and that may well change. This is what we came up with. So in order to move ahead with this, we had to come up with what financial finances would look like, what our governance ranges would look like, but always with the caveat that these things may change, that we have the opportunity to work together if something doesn't work. And also all through that, all through the governance arrangements, there are carers and service users involved in all of those groups. So our current position is that we've had agreement from the CCG, governing body, and from Richmond Borough Cabinet to go ahead with this alliance contract. And the most capable provider group programme board is, we've got so long, you know, we're in the process of signing heads of terms, and that's the next process after the Memorandum of Understanding, where we've agreed to work together, and the ISDS, where we've tried to demonstrate how we're going to do this. And the purpose of the heads of terms is to record our intentions, really, at this stage, subject to the successful completion of the ISDS evaluation process. So the heads of terms for us will set out a timetable for developing an alliance contract. The transition from services from the current position to an OBC contract under the overarching alliance. And again, we haven't got exactly what those outcomes are going to look like. We're working through them. The heads of terms also sets out the principles we will adopt when working together to establish the alliance as a vehicle for achieving transformation of services. So, you know, how we're going to work together, if we want to pull out, what's going to happen, all of those kind of things that you want to take into consideration. So our next steps are that the parties intend to, by July 2017, to enter into an outcomes-based commissioning contract and sign an alliance agreement. And again, we're still talking. I mean, the most important thing through all of this was to talk. And sometimes you get sick of talking and you're saying the same thing, but eventually you get to a point where you get to some agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.